Hey everybody, Matt Johnson. Convicted killer Rex Heuermann didn't say a lot in court at his sentencing, but his body language sure gave it away.
Oh, I mean, this guy's a demon. There's no doubt that he's possessed, okay? I mean, I believe in evil, and I think this is an evil man.
That's world-renowned body language expert Susan Constantine to break down what Heuermann didn't say when he was in court, his body language. And also, we're going to break down the body language of his wife, Asa Ellerup.
Now, wrap your head around that one. So there's definitely something weird going on here.
Did she know more than she's letting on? But first, do me a favor. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, and share this episode. Now, the case of Rex Heuermann. Here to help break it all down, we have a very special guest. We have Susan Constantine, jury consultant, body language expert, speaker, and author of How to Spot a Liar in 7 Seconds or Less. We'll talk about it at the end of this program. But nice to see you, my friend, especially when we're talking about the sentencing of Rex Heuermann.
You know, watching it, on a big screen, it's really interesting just to kind of watch his expressions or his non-expressions during that time. And I'm fascinated by the lack of empathy this guy has. Like, it's just bizarre.
And one of the top moments that I want to ask you about is what this guy is thinking, this psychopath, when the judge is in control and calls him a coward. So let's watch and I'll get your thoughts.
As Mr. Tierney said, I know that you're sorry that you got caught. I assume that you're sorry for what you've done to your wife and children. Are you a little bit sorry for what you did to these poor innocent women? 8 women that you strangled to death, at least 8 that we know of. Are you at least a little bit sorry for that? Yes?
Yes, I am.
You know what? You've been described as a very big man, but you're a disgusting and despicable small man, if you're a man at all. And you're a coward.
What's going through your mind right there? What is he thinking?
I think Rex Heuermann sits there and listens to it, and he's amused. He's listening to the judge go off on him, right? And he is emotionally detached, so he doesn't have the same moral compass. So I think he's listening to it, but if you listen at the very end, the judge had to prompt him to saying yes. And then it goes, yes. So it never came out naturally. He just stayed, we didn't see him in the background. All we did was hear him. But the fact that he had to be prompted was really problematic for me. But that judge, he was exasperated. You could see him kind of sitting up and going back down like, he's just exasperated. And the frustration that this judge has for the lack of just any sort of empathy whatsoever regarding killing and admitting to murdering these 8 women. And he was beside himself, amazed that he didn't have any sort of moral compass or concern about those young girls at all. I think that just shocked the judge.
I think it shocked a lot of us. And here's a picture of the victims: Sandra Costella, Karen Vergata, Valerie Mack, Jessica Taylor, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Melissa Bartholomew, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello. Now I'm going to play his statement, and I want to get your perspective on what he says in court.
Mr. Heuermann, is there anything you wish to say before I pronounce sentence?
Yes. Your Honor.
Stand up.
There are no words I can say. I am responsible for what was said in this room today. The words I would say have no meaning, and I'm going to leave it there at this time.
Speak up.
What do you think about that?
Oh my gosh, there was so much that went on there, Matt. I was texting you last night, and I'm like, you've got to get this last piece because it's shocking to me how annoyed he is, right? So Heuermann, when he gets up, when he stands up, and he has to be prompted to stand up, right? So he's kind of annoyed, like, oh, okay, fine, I'll get up. You could see the agitation. And then his words, he never admits or mentions, like as you said, any of their names whatsoever. as he says, he says something about, and what I've already said, or what they've already said. So this is what's really interesting, because a lot of these killers and murderers will never name what it actually is. They won't say, they've already heard everything about me murdering their loved ones. He doesn't say that. They never attach themselves to the actual act in itself. Even in sexual abuse, they don't do it. There's something in their brain that says, I can't go there, because they don't look at it the same way as we. They don't have the same moral empathy. Then you could see when he's sitting down, he kind of like pulls his jacket in like he's ticked off, right? Like he's annoyed. And then you could see his facial expressions. You can see the muscles kind of tighten up in his face. And then he whispers something. And I'm sure that it was something that was very condescending, very smart alecky, and he was annoyed. So it's just shocking to me that he can't even bring himself to even acknowledging or showing any sort of compassion or even anything. But then you have to look at the psychopathy, which we can talk about, because this is way beyond you and I could ever begin to imagine. I mean, it is something where Dr. Burgess has studied for years and years, and he lives in that cube, right? So he can be this murderer, he can be this architect, and he can be the family person. He can be the serial killer, and he literally can detach from each one of those part of the cube and not even look at each other, any of the other ones, any other areas, until he's ready to actually make that leap. And it could be even in the same day. So this is what he's compartmentalizing a lot of these events, and he's not putting any sort of connection or emotional feelings, because he doesn't feel them. That's that lack of empathy, lack of remorse. It isn't there. That's why I think it's really interesting that he is allowed for him to be evaluated, to have his brain examined, to have researchers there, to have experts analyze him, because he's a case study. And we have to learn more about how this happens, if it's biological or if this was environmental, of things that he opened up the door to, and they started to fascinate, and then he started to plan, and he started to build upon it until he could act upon it.
And another top moment in the courtroom was the cheers when he left.
Nothing further. Get him out of here.
And you know what? It would be really hard for me, and I'm sure you would be too, even though you're a professional, so am I. I want to get up and do a standing applause too. But we know that professional decorum says that we can't do it. But when we look at his facial expressions, there is a detachment. He's smug. He doesn't even make eye contact. He doesn't even make eye contact with his attorney. He doesn't even look back to acknowledge. There's nothing that's going on. And also, there's no what we even call cognitive load. Like, I see his eyes blinking, but it's not rapid. It's actually kind of timed pretty normal. So there's not even a flight response. He's absolutely okay with it. He's just kind of going through the motions and allowing everything to happen. So, I mean, he's completely detached. You could remove all those other people and just watch him, and you'd wonder if anybody else was in the room, because he's not looking or connecting with anybody. No one.
That's fascinating. And, when we're talking about what's next for him, part of his plea deal, he has to be a case study for authorities. And here's what was said at his change of plea hearing, and I want to get your take.
Are you willing to waive your right to appeal in this case in return for the plea and sentence agreement?
Yes.
Do you waive your right to appeal voluntarily of your own free will?
Yes, I do.
Are you entering this plea bargain voluntarily of your own free will?
Yes, I am.
Has anyone forced, threatened, or coerced you into pleading guilty?
No.
Are you under the influence of any drug, medication, or alcohol right now?
No.
Are you under the influence of any substance which has impaired your ability to think clearly or understand what's going on here today?
No.
You understand that by pleading guilty, you're waiving any defenses you have for this case?
Yes, I do.
Now, has anyone, myself, your lawyer, the prosecutor, or anyone else, made any promises to you in return for your plea of guilty?
The only thing I want to interject, Judge, Mr. Tierney has indicated in exchange for the pleas that we're going to enter into this morning, there'll be no further prosecutions on the 8 victims that he's referenced. He is also, my client is also obligated to completely, truthfully and fairly cooperate with the Federal Bureau of Investigation's Behavioral Analysis Unit as part of what we've just discussed,
Any other promises made to you?
other than what I've just said.
No.
Yeah, like he's agreeing to it, and he's nodding at the right time. But when you look at that and you could actually freeze it, you could see, look at that. He's doing everything he can to hold in laughter, amused. We saw this with Dennis Rader, same thing. They're aroused. This is an arousal response, right? So we see contempt, we see amusements, we see concealed joy. And so he's really getting off on this. He's loving this. This is his moment. So when he looks over at his attorney, this was something they had spoke about before, because he bounced it back off. He knew right when the right moment was to look over attorney to answer that question. So that was planned. And then he took right there. Okay. Nope. And he says he would do it. So there's no reason to believe that he wouldn't at this point in time.
But do you really think that he is going to tell the truth to investigators, or do you think that he's going to tell them some sort of tale so that he has company behind bars?
You know, the thing is, I think of this, and if you've ever seen the movie Nefarious, watch it.
It's scary.
Oh, I mean, this guy's a demon. There's no doubt that he's possessed, okay? I mean, I believe in evil, and I think this is an evil man. But I think that he'll taunt them, and he'll enjoy it like Dennis Rader does, because he loves to give a little bit of information, a little bit here and there. Because remember, that's all part of the excitement, reliving it. And you know, I've seen this, you know, in my training in sexual assault cases and stuff. And when a person is asked questions about the actual event, you literally can see the arousal, the breathing hard, the rapid breathing, concealment, smile, because what they're doing is you have activated that recalled memory. It's like a feeder memory. And that's what they live for, right? That adrenaline, that excitement. So I think he's really going to have a great time messing with these guys, but I think he's going to give them information, because what does he have to lose? I think, and this is just, I'd like to hear your point on this one too. I think the reason why he admitted to all of them, because I think there's a lot more. So why look at the death penalty when he can admit to it, to the 8? Maybe there's probably 20. I don't know. But once it goes through that database and they start linking all that DNA, I'm telling you what, Rex Heuermann is going to be in big trouble. So I think he was smart and is very calculated in his plea deal.
Yeah, I think that there are more victims, and I think that he is a very sick individual, and I'm not sure if we'll ever understand the full tip of the iceberg with him. And I think that he does enjoy playing with people, because the police had said in their initial investigation that he would buy burner phones and he would use them to taunt his victims' families. But speaking of families, I'm very curious as to the relationship that he is going to have, if at all, with his estranged wife, Asa Ellerup. She was not at the sentencing, but she was at the change of plea hearing, and she said this, and I wanted to know what stood out to you.
My thoughts and prayers are with the victims and their families. Their loss is immeasurable, and the focus should be on them at this time, and to my family as they navigate through this very difficult time.
She has acknowledged that her husband had committed these horrible, heinous crimes. But you know what I find really unusual? If you look at this family, all of them, the son, the daughter, and her, they all have that flat, emotionless affect. And they have throughout, not just here, but in the Netflix series, you watch them when they were interviewed, they had that very stoic look. It's kind of like this heaviness that is somewhere in their family, that they all kind of mimic that same emotion. The other thing is I really want to give her a lot of credit, because I do think there are victims, okay? I do think that they didn't know. There's nothing about what they've said that have ever led me to believe that they knew anything about it. I think it was very clever, calculated, and it was planned and orchestrated perfectly so that they wouldn't know. However, when she's asked the question, which is everybody wants to know, how would you not know? You know, it's the same thing with Jerry Sandusky. How did his wife not know that he was molesting those little boys down in the basement when they were spending the night? There is a part of her and these people that are so close to them, they're in complete denial because they themselves, Matt, live in the cube too, right? This is my husband. This is my father. This is what I've experienced. And I am in denial of it because that's something I never experienced with that person. So I do believe that she didn't know. And then the other thing is, like, when she's asked that question, she turns right around because how is she supposed to answer the question? She said it over and over and over again. She did not know. She was not there. He was not there. The only creepy thing that I will tell you that I find weird is she's actually sleeping in the room where all these murders took place. I don't know if you saw the Netflix, but she's actually sleeping and decorated the room in the actual murder chamber. Now, wrap your head around that one. That's psychopathy. So there's definitely something weird going on here.
Yeah, there is something very weird going on here. I've been to the house and I've spoken to her on the lawn, and that whole neighborhood in Long Island, it is like Pleasantville. Every house and yard is manicured. And then you get to the architect's house and there is something amiss. It is dilapidated. It is falling down. Well, I met up with her after his arrest on the front lawn. Here is part of our conversation. I want to get your take on it.
What you see, right? It is what it is.
How's your children doing?
Not doing it, those on that one. Not going there.
Have you spoken to your husband?
And I'm not going there either.
It's this cognitive dissonance. You know, they can't seem to connect it. It's too much for them to admit to what actually happened there, right? She's also very guarded. We see her kind of holding her sweater together like this. Well, of course, you know, you kind of caught her off guard. She's probably not dressed appropriately underneath there. So she's kind of holding herself kind of protected and guarded. But again, her affect, you know, she doesn't want to go there, And just think about it, you know, because I sat through the Casey Anthony trial, and every time, you know, they were asked questions, you get to a certain point where you're tired of answering the questions, even though you did a great job. They just are refuting it. You know, I don't want to answer it again because there's a lot at stake, because she knows that every word she says, we're going to be hanging on to every word she says, and it's going to be used against her, just like I'm on this podcast talking about what I've actually seen in this video, okay? But she has that very deflated, she looks like she's just been so weathered, but I think she always looked like that, right? And doesn't that kind of go along with her whole image, the dilapidated house, you know, the no affect, the darkness of their gloominess that they have, the whole family, and then her demeanor. It's all kind of painting this dark picture. And I don't even know if she's connecting the dots because she's lived it so long. But to answer one of your questions you said, Matt, I don't think she's ever going to give up on her husband. I don't.
Really?
I think I think she's still going to talk to him, because that's not the way I knew my husband. The children are going to say, but that's not how I knew my father. And you know, I had the pleasure of meeting with Dennis Rader's daughter, who is also a victim. And it's very similar. Their lives are utterly destroyed. There is no way to reconcile that. They will be tainted forever and ever. Even if they move to another part of the world, they already have been tainted. It's downhill for them.
Now I want to compare that to some clips from the documentary that she was in. Let me play it.
Hello.
How you doing?
Hello.
I'm doing great, now that I've got you on the phone.
The question everyone keeps asking is, how could you not know?
Learning his ex-wife, Asa Ellerup, heard his confession prior to his plea.
He looked very nervous, very, very nervous. And I said to him, so, Mr. Heuermann, I understand that you are confessing to me on these murders. Can you please tell me how many of these women did you kill? He said 8.
So it's pretty much in line with what you've already said.
Well, it's exhaustive for her, and then she closes her eyes, which is an eye shutter. It's like you want to shut everything all out from something that's too painful to actually, relive. Okay. She calls him Mr. Huberman, which I thought was really interesting. She didn't call him by his first name, didn't call him by, honey or whatever, but she was also really joyful, right? She was really joyful to hear his voice, and she was elated, because I think that she loves her husband, and she's been betrayed and she's been lied to. And so when we look at it from that perspective, you can have empathy for her, because I believe she didn't have a clue. But how do you then now see this man that she's been married to for all these years, and all of a sudden he's like a serial killer? Like, how do you reconcile that in your brain and in your heart? So I don't think she's able to detach, even though she knows it logically because it's been proven, but emotionally it's a different story. She hasn't detached from that, and I don't think she really will ever, because I think she does love her husband, because she knows him only as her husband, not as a serial killer.
Of one of the sides of the box that you talked about that he presented to her.
Yes. Yeah, I think, it's fascinating, because I studied this after I talked to Dr. Burgess and I interviewed her for my book, because I'm like, wow, that's so intriguing, because we can see this in other types of crimes. Like, how can it that like a next door neighbor can say, oh, I knew this person, I would never have guessed it, or somebody that's working with, I never would have thought that. Well, it's part of that cubing. They can separate things out. That's the part of the brain and the studying that I'm fascinated with. Like, how does that actually happen? What caused it? Was there something they opened the door to, a fascination, and it became an obsession? And then, is that what's happening? Is there a brain dysfunction? Is it innate? Were they born with it? I mean, there's a lot of unanswered questions, but Rex Heuermann is an interesting case study.
Susan Constantine, body language expert, speaker, and author of How to Spot a Liar in 7 Seconds or Less. Great book. Tell us about it.
Okay, so the book launch now, that's available on Barnes & Noble and also on Amazon. You can pre-order it for $23. The cool thing is that you can also be part of my new insider group. And this is not a podcast, but you're going to have some inside information where I cover a lot of high-profile cases like the Amber Heard case. Actually, they cut that from my book, I want to let you know. The publisher did, because it was too controversial. And I said, well, she's a liar and she's also a victim. So anyway, they get that chapter, and it's uncensored. and then they'll get also to the Murdoch case and everything that I evaluated in there. So yes, the Dr. Burgess is in here. I interviewed her about the cubing. I think it's very interesting. And the doctor, also his assistant, Susan Constantine, no relation, same last name. Lots of good stuff in this book. So you're going to learn what I do also in 7 seconds or less.
How to Spot a Liar in 7 Seconds or Less. That's the new book. I have all the information in my show notes. Thank you for being on the program again.
It's my pleasure.
If you enjoyed this discussion, please head to the video section of this YouTube channel. There you can see videos and analysis of the Corey Richins case, Mackenzie Sharilla, and also the parents of Summer Wells. I'll keep you updated on all these cases. Please take care of yourself. We'll see you next time.